Welcome in everyone, this is Sean with MTG808 Jr. and today we're going to be taking a look at an updated post-rotation version of Blue-Green Merfolk, an archetype that has been very strong here in Standard Pauper for quite some time. Before we jump into that though, just want to make sure everyone knows about our plans for our upcoming scholarship tournament. We will for sure be running a scholarship tournament this December, and then hopefully we will be running a second scholarship tournament come May. That is contingent on hitting $400 a month here on our Patreon page, but I'm pretty confident that we will hit that between now and May, so plan on there being 2 scholarship tournaments for this school year. All right, that is awesome. Also, with rotation coming up, we are going to have 2 tournaments that will take place before rotation happens. Pre-releases for Guilds of Ravnica happen on the 29th and the 30th of September, so at the end of this month. And then rotation happens when the set releases on October 5th. Our first currently scheduled tournament post-rotation is October 21st. So we hope to see all of you there playing your new updated post-rotation standard Pauper decks. If you want to check out our playlist, we have, I think this is like our 4th video in this playlist featuring decks that will be standard Pauper legal. And of course, all of these decks will get new goodies with Guilds of Ravnica coming out. So 2 more tournaments before rotation happens, and then our next tournament after rotation right now is October 21st. All right, so here is our Blue-Green Merfolk list. We will have a link to this text version of the deck in the description, but we will be hopping over here to Magic Online for now. And this list has not changed very much since Ixalan. Almost all the cards in this deck are from Ixalan, since the majority of the Merfolk in Legal and Standard Pauper are from Ixalan. And we saw Aiden doing really well with this deck. A few months ago, earlier in the year, he was just going on a tear in our regular Standard Pauper tournaments. He did not play this deck in the Scholarship tournament, and I think he wishes he did, because the deck that he chose to play, I think he didn't feel as comfortable with it. But anyway, this deck is very tried and true, very solid, and I think that it fills a similar niche as the Blue-Red Artificer deck did in the previous format, where it had a good aggro game plan, it had a good hexproof creature to kind of top the curve, and then it could just like make a big giant creature and then smash the opponent with it. And then of course you are playing blue, so you get the sideboard cards to side in against the control decks, giving you a good control matchup. But this deck has lost some tools that give it game against some of the other aggro decks. One big addition to this deck since the last time we looked at it is I did put Llanowar Elves in this deck. It is a green aggro deck. Even though Llanowar Elves is not a Merfolk, I think that you just always want to have Llanowar Elves in your green aggro decks. Just having, Jungle Delver is like an okay play on turn 1. It's a pretty good draw in the late game if you need a mana sink, and it is a Merfolk. But Llanowar Elves is just so good. Being able to like play a 2-drop and another 1-drop on turn 2, or just going straight to 3 to play your Jungleborn Pioneer, getting Jade Guardian down early before the control deck can have Essence Scatter mana up. All these things are really, really powerful. So we did include Llanowar Elves. It is the only non-Merfolk in the deck. Might make Shaper Apprentice a little worse. I don't think you'll want to target Llanowar Elf with River Herald's Boon pretty often, and you probably won't target it with Jade Guardian. So I'm not that worried about cutting down on the Merfolk synergy, and the power level of Llanowar Elves is just so high. So if you're not familiar with this deck, basically it's a blue-green aggro deck. You play a bunch of solid creatures, right? Shaper's Apprentice is a good attacker to play on turn 2, so is Deeproot Warrior. Jungleborn Pioneer goes wide, makes a hexproof creature. Tishana's Wayfinder will keep the gas going in the late game. You do have a 1/1 unblockable, so you can start going in early, and then you have this hexproof creature to top off your curve. And then River Herald's Boon is the big incentive to play Merfolk, right? Making your Mistcloak Herald a 3/3 unblockable on turn 2. That happens sometimes, especially if you know your opponent doesn't play a ton of removal, or just like stacking up a big hexproof token or Jade Guardian, and then making it huge is a really good game plan. So that's kind of the general game plan of Merfolk, right? You're an aggro deck. You're trying to make your creatures huge. One of the things that the Merfolk deck did lose, it did lose Cartouche of Knowledge, And the replacement options for it are here, but they're strictly worse than Cartouche of Knowledge was, so I don't know if we want to play too many of that effect. Giving a Jade Guardian flying, though, is really, really big game. Putting one of these on one of the non-Jade Guardian creatures is pretty risky. Like, you could throw Cartouche on one of the non-hexproof creatures before and be fine with it, because you would draw your card anyway, and then you would, start getting a creature in the air, start pushing through damage. If they killed it, then oh well, you still got your card out of Cartouche. But that's not so much the case with these cards. So you need to be much more selective with where you put them. I only have 2 slots in the deck for this right now. These numbers are definitely subject to change as you get some reps in with the deck. And I'm not sure which one is better, Arcane Flight or One with the Wind. One with the Wind is more powerful. Arcane Flight is better on the curve. So I have a 1-1 split on this right now. Could see it going either way, honestly. I have a feeling that One with the Wind is going to be better, just because the deck, it packs a bigger punch, and very rarely does this deck lose on tempo. So we'll see. The other big loss that this deck will lose in rotation is Unsummon. Unsummon was kind of the way that this deck kept tempo with some of the other aggro decks, right? They might use a pump spell on a creature and you could catch him with Unsummon. Leaving Unsummon open was a very low opportunity cost, right? Just leaving 1 mana open to protect yourself with Unsummon. And that is a pretty big loss. There isn't really anything to replace it with. Crashing Tide, I don't know if this is honestly the best option. The tempo gain from Blink of an Eye might be more important, but Crashing Tide, as long as you control a Merfolk, it has Flash, return target creature to its owner's hand, and draw a card. So, this is much more expensive than Merfolk, or much more expensive than Unsummon. The big appeal of Unsummon was the tempo boost. This, you're not going to get as big of a tempo boost, but you will draw a card. So, if you do want this effect, I think Crashing Tide is going to be the way to go. Blink of an Eye costing 2 to just return the creature, but then costing 1 more to also draw a card. It's a give and a take. Since we are playing Merfolk, might as well try out the Merfolk keyword. I don't know if you'll even want this effect, though. It might just be straight up too expensive. So I only have 1 in the deck for now, just to kind of have it as a talking point. And then we'll see, how the deck shapes up. Aiden was having lots of success playing Gift of Strength. To just help him punch his creatures through bigger creatures, or to just win a race if he had to go to the air and then outrace the other aggro decks. So Gift of Strength was 2 mana, target creature gets +3/+3 and reach until end of turn. Titanic Growth will probably be better in almost every situation, except when you are racing other flying decks. But since Cartouche of Knowledge is leaving, I imagine that the number of opposing flying creatures will go down, and just having the extra point of power and toughness will be more relevant. Again, I don't know how many slots you want for this. Aiden was playing the full 4 at one point. Titanic Growth is really good. So the deck might end up wanting more. We will see. But that is a really big, a really nice addition to green aggro decks from M19. All right, and then the last option here, and again, I don't know how good this is Short Sword. I think equipment is great, especially when you're dealing with small unblockable creatures or hexproof creatures. It might just be a little too clunky though. But if you really want to make sure that your control matchup is good, I think Short Sword is going to be kind of like the flex slot way to go, right? Because the control decks don't care about you making one creature huge, especially if it doesn't have hexproof. Because they'll just kill it, right? So River Herald's Boon is not nearly as good against control decks, but Short Sword is amazing against control decks because they have to kill every single one of your creatures in order to blank Short Sword, whereas they only have to kill 1 or maybe 2 of your creatures if you split the targets with River Herald's Boon in order to blank River Herald's Boon. So I think Short Sword is good. It might not be main deck worthy. You might prefer one of these other flex slots. But I think the deck for sure wants Short Sword in the board, if not in the main deck, just because it's really good against control. And I think that this deck has the potential to have a really good control matchup. So, these flex slots, feel free to play with these. if you want to shave to make more room in the deck, I think Jungle Delver is definitely cuttable. Wayfinder is trimmable. Before we were playing less than 4 copies of Jade Guardian in the main and having the rest on the board. I think that's completely reasonable. But I think Hexproof is just such a powerful effect in this format. So I think we want to max out on the 4, but if you really want to shave slots, you can. One thing of note is that this deck is completely legal in MTG Arena Standard Pauper. I'm going to talk about that a little more in depth, but basically one of the big differences between the Standard Pauper format that we've been playing here on the island and MTG Arena Standard Pauper is that we allow downshifted uncommon rarities. So we've been getting some comments on the videos that like Lightning Strike, Murder, Gravedigger, etc. We've been making a lot of decks with those, and they're not legal in MTG Arena. If you're one of those people, I'm hearing you. We'll try to put out more content that's not using those cards. But the rule that we will be using in our local tournaments will have the downshifted rarities. I think it makes for a more interesting format, having access to more cards, to more power level. And I have been posting in the MTG Arena forums trying to encourage them to consider that change. But regardless, this deck is completely legal on MTG Arena. Simic, the blue-green guild from Guilds of Ravnica, will not be in Guilds of Ravnica, but it will be in Ravnica Allegiance. So this deck might need to wait a little bit to get a really big boost from the gold cards that are coming down the pike. But, I still think that this deck is going to be very solid. This deck was putting up great numbers before rotation. I think it got much more powerful with Llanowar Elves. It got much more powerful with Llanowar Elves. It lost some power with Cartouche of Knowledge, but I think this deck still has all the tools to be good. We for sure have Negate in the board. Dive Down is good against control. Short Sword is good against control. One with the Wind you can bring in if you need to race an opponent. Same with Root Snare. I don't know how relevant Plummet will be, but I have it here just to say that it's an option. Same with Naturalize. Don't know how relevant it will be. Short Sword is still in the format. There are some enchantment-based removal, so Naturalize might be something that you want. And then Water Knot is, if you want removal, then Water Knot is there. Although Crashing Tide might just be better if you're, just looking for sideboard cards against big, expensive creatures. So that's the sideboard. That's the deck. Let us know what you think in the comments. Always looking for feedback. If you have an archetype that you want us to look at, definitely taking viewer suggestions. And we will be taking a closer look at MTG Arena in a future video, hopefully our next video or two. I've been slowly exploring MTG Arena myself, so I need to get my bearings in the client before I make a video on it. But, I would highly recommend, especially if you're planning on playing in our Standard Pauper tournaments, MTG Arena is probably the best online way to practice Standard Pauper. Unfortunately, the Magic Online client doesn't have a Standard Pauper format, so unless you have a friend that also has Magic Online, you can't practice Standard Pauper online. But MTG Arena, for now, they have a Standard Pauper format to play. They say they're just testing it out, so I don't know if it'll come back. But regardless, MTG Arena is free to play. Pay to build your collection faster, but free to play. And it's an open beta right now, so if you want to join, just go ahead and hit type in MTG Arena download into Google. This site will pop up, put in your email address, yada, yada, yada. You wait a week, and then they'll send you a beta code, and you can get in. The client is pretty clean, but as I said, I'll do a more in-depth video on that at a later point, so keep an eye out for that. But thanks for stopping by, Blue-Green Merfolk. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm confident it will be a contender in the format moving forward. And last but not least, if you want to support what we do here, if you want to support Standard Pauper content, if you want to support Youth Magic here on Oahu, please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. Everything that we do here is funded directly from our Patreon subscribers, so all the scholarship money that we give away, all the tournaments that we run multiple times each month, that's all supported by Patreon, so please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. We are going to be rolling out some new perks, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And thanks for stopping by. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching. That's the best way to support what we do. All right, I will catch you later. Peace.